The Radio Dawn podcast. I am the aforementioned. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really appreciate this, especially with the couple of weeks I've been having. Um, Before we do anything, there is one thing I would like to announce to those who don't even know, and that is that we have an actual website again, radiodon.net. Is an actual website that I built myself, and I think you're going to like it. All of our uh, podcasts that have been taken down for copyright reasons are available there. All the things we do on YouTube. Hopefully, we'll be able to get the stuff on TikTok there as well. And it's available right now, radiodom.net. Also, if you'd like to support us, you can go there and do that. Just go to the place where it says support, and you'll be right there. You'll know exactly what to do. We also have our store there, and we also have the latest news. Now, we're trying to put together a news feed, but until we can get that, we manage to plaster the live feed from a certain online news organization that is in great peril right now. I think you can figure out which one it is. Anyway, radiodon.net. It's up, it's running, it's live, and all that good stuff. Now, we're going to start this particular episode because have you noticed this new thing called the Democratic Socialists of America? It doesn't know whether or not it wants to be a party or wants to be an offshoot of the Democratic Party or wants to be a political organization or whatever it is. Um, the DSA has been, doing very well during the primaries or the whatever you call the off year elections, the preliminaries. Um, it's been an amazing story, and a lot of the people who are doing the punditry are saying that it means that all these Democrats want change. Of course, they don't explain what the change is, and I have their platform, or at least what portends to be a platform. I will talk about that in a second. But one of the things that makes me wonder about this is they found a leader, a woman with all the charisma of store brand Cheerios, if you know what I'm talking about. I mean, she looks like she went from they went to Central Casting and said, can you find me somebody who looks like she's shopping for asparagus in the produce department of Harris Teeter? So they found this person, and she's been, I forgot her name, but she's been running around the various streaming services as the head of the uh, Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA, if you will. And basically, she says, all the greatest hits, get rid of ICE, um, $15 an hour minimum wage, universal health care, all that good stuff. But that's just the stuff that you hear. You haven't really seen the entire platform. And what I have in my hand is not necessarily the entire platform. These are just the greatest hits here. But I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to talk about how I feel about it. And you tell me. First off, if I noticed one thing about the sections of the platform, it's all about the working class. And I have something to say about that too as well. But let's go through the three sections of the platform. They are thriving working class communities, working class foreign policy, and working class democracy. Let's go through the communities first. And like I said, a lot of these things are the uber left-wing progressive greatest hits, like a 32-hour work week with full pay and benefits. In other words, 4 days a week as opposed to 5 days a week with full pay and benefits. What people keep forgetting about that word benefits is that there's no law that says you have to give a worker benefits. Benefits are that thing that they hope will get you to sign on the dotted line. A company does not, by law, have to give you health care. They don't have to give you the executive washroom. And when they talk about benefits, that's basically what we're talking about. Free health care and, or at least halfway paid for health care. Because I worked in a place that basically gave you health care, but I still had to pay for half of it. And full pay. We'll get to that with the next plank here, and that is paid family leave and a living minimum wage. Now, when we hear the words living minimum wage, you're usually talking about $15 an hour. I live in Los Angeles. $15 an hour wouldn't even pay for a trip to the drive-thru at In-N-Out. $15 an hour is still poverty level in Los Angeles. Maybe it isn't in Chillicothe, Kansas, but in Los Angeles, So what would be a living minimum wage for every person in America? I want to see a number. Paid family leave, that's wonderful. How many weeks? 1, 2, 4, 6 months? I want to see some definite numbers here. I'm on board with the next one, free public education from pre-K to college, plus student debt cancellations. Why is it that you have to pay to learn? In other countries, in other industrialized countries, that doesn't happen. People go to high-class universities, get to learn things, not only learning things that will help them get a job, but help them expand their minds. So I'm down with that. Universal health care at no cost, expanded public hospitals, and free medical training. The reason I'm on board with this, because of course, we are the only, one of the few, I'll put it that way, industrial countries, and the largest of them, not to offer some sort of government-backed healthcare insurance, because that's what we are really talking about. Universal healthcare insurance paid for by the government, by your taxes, where you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. And I would also hope that would include medicines, prescription medicines. That should be free too. It shouldn't cost $100 a pill for anything. And I like the way they put it, because when people talk about universal health care insurance, I add the insurance, they don't talk about they only usually talk about Medicare for all. I'm 71 and I'm on Medicare for some. And a lot of my services are being taken care of by a Medicare Advantage plan furnished by a for-profit healthcare company. We thought that when we talk about Medicare for all, we're getting rid of the healthcare for-profit people. Either maybe you should. I think all of this is because we're too afraid to say the words national health system, because that would definitely mean government health care insurance. Housing as a human right, social housing, rent control, regulation of investment properties, tenant right to counsel. As a person who was homeless for, let's just say, a good long time, I would be on board with this, but when they say social housing, are we talking about a new way to call it the projects? Is it going to be warehousing of people in the not nice part of town? Rent control, how much are you going to control it? Regulation of investment properties. I would love to see these big investment companies that swoop in and purchase houses and apartment buildings and charge really high rents and not really maintain those properties. And tenant right to counsel. Some cities have it, some don't. I want that to be universal. The Green New Deal. I'm still not too sure about exactly what that is, but a federal jobs guarantee? Explain that to me, really. We're gonna give you a job, whether you know how to do that job or not. We are going to give you a job. In other words, you will be somebody's slave. It'll be federally paid for, but you will be somebody's slave. Public ownership of energy infrastructure. In other words, the government now owns the electric company and the gas company and all that. Fossil fuel phase out. How many years? And what do you do with all the cars that do not, that are still running on gas? I live in California, as I said, and here in Southern California, there are a lot of cars that are old cars. The classic car culture is massive here in Southern California. What happens to that? Will we force people to get, electric car conversions? And will those classic cars be those classic cars? I know for some of you it doesn't make any sense, but for some people, especially here in Southern California, especially with the car culture here, those are questions that need to be answered. Criminal justice reforms. Demilitarizing the police. Why should police officers have better armaments than the U.S. government, than the U.S. Army? Especially after what we found out this week about what's going on with the Navy. There are soldiers that are serving, Navy people serving on the USS Abraham Lincoln. According to reports, they're jumping off the ship. It's that bad. And there are police departments that have better equipment than our Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. Ending qualified immunity, whatever that is. Civilian oversight, like we have here in Los Angeles. Yeah, right. Treating addiction and mental health as health issues, not as criminal issues. Maybe you could start by just legalizing everything. Just say the drug war has been a failure. Legalize everything. And long-term goal of abolishing police and prisons. So if somebody climbs into your home, steals your big screen television, ends your wife's existence and goes down the hall and does something horrible to your daughter, what do we do? Do we slap him on the wrist and just say, you know, we will always have some sort of incarceration. And we will always need some form of law enforcement. We just need to make sure that it is humane, that you hire people that are not influenced by movies and television, but by an actual, we want to help the community. That's been lost. Finally, reparations. And investment in communities harmed by slavery and colonialism. Now, the last part of that, yeah, I can understand that. Investments, putting actual supermarkets in and stores and shopping and industries and businesses in those areas. But I've been hearing reparations since I was 7. Is that going to be an individual check to anyone who is, well, African American? And how big is that check going to be? And will that bankrupt the country? We're not finished with this because there's other stuff, and that's coming up right after this. A quick reminder that we are not sponsored, and we will probably never will be. So I won't be saying anything about razor blades or home alarm systems or overpriced cereal or anything like that. And we have started the process of making not only the podcast better, but making my presence online better and also freer. And we've built the website. It is up, radiodon.net. But in order for us to make it better, we need to be able to pay bills. So this is the plea for you to help us out in that regard. There are several ways you can help us. First off, follow us wherever you are listening to this. That is free, and it gives us it gives the algorithm something to latch on to. You please comment whether it is in favor or in opposition of anything that I say. And if any of what I say touches you or makes you think or even makes you angry, your substantial support will be welcome. Right now, you can do that by simply going to the website. Just go to radiodon.net and then you click on support, and on that page, you will see exactly what you need to do. And I sincerely hope that you are able to help us out in that regard. So thank you very much for listening, and we go back to what we're doing. Welcome back. We're talking about the DSA. We're talking about the platform that the DSA is going through. We've just talked about communities. Now we're going to go through the working class foreign policy. Now, some people would think that the foreign policy of the United States, if it were a working class foreign policy, should be none. But let's see what type of weeds we get into on this one. Defunding the Department of Defense or the Department of War. All that has to happen is somebody blows up a building somewhere in Manhattan, and that will take care of that. Another 9/11. Carefully targeted, I would assume. Ending foreign wars and closing overseas bases. Good luck on that one. Because the bad guys are global. They're not only here, but they're out there as well. I'm saying this as a former Army brat. The presence of the U.S. military around the world was never, supposed to be imposing. It was supposed to be a help to other countries and things like that. Again, all it takes is one incident, and all that will be put into a box to be stored, out of sight forever. Ending economic sanctions. So what effect do we have on countries, I should say, that do evil? What effect, if you're going to close down the military and you're going to close down, all of our bases, and you're going to end economic sanctions, what leverage does the United States have against evil that happens in other countries? I know we don't have a way to curb the evil that happens in this country. Like, you can't jail a president. You can't. You can't have justice by wishful thinking. And finally here, supporting veterans. Well, what do you mean by that? Seriously. We have a VA that sometimes helps veterans, sometimes does not. I would like to see specifically what you mean by supporting veterans. Do you guarantee a veteran a home for life? Do you guarantee a veteran a guaranteed high income for life? Do you guarantee that veteran, once he has done a tour of war duty, does not have to do that again? That once that person does that, it's done. You get your pension, you get your home, you get lifetime health care insurance for your entire family, for your life and their lives. Just saying supporting veterans, to me, as a former Army brat, is not enough. Finally, we have working class democracy. And if you think some of the stuff you've heard is iffy already, they want to abolish the U.S. Senate and expand the House into a single legislature. How's that going to work? How's that going to work? You've eliminated a check on what the House does. Will there be more representatives? Will there be more districts? How much will this make things better? Non-citizen voting rights. Look, if you're in this country for whatever reason, whether you're a citizen or not, whether you have a home or not, whether you're naturalized or not, if you're in this country legitimately, obeying the basic laws of the country, not causing any problems, contributing to society, I believe you should have the opportunity to vote on your future. I'm sorry, Mr. Red Hat. I've believed that since I was little. Public ownership of major industries. Now, I had a problem with this, but then I did a little research, and I'm finding out that many companies that are owned by their employees do better, last longer, invest more. My question is, how's that going to work? Again, it's government by wishful thinking. I want to see exactly how that is going to play out before I hang my hat on that. Strengthening labor power and democratic planning, whatever democratic planning means. As for strengthening labor power, have you ever asked yourself this question? Who controls you? Who controls you? Are you controlled by a company, a corporation, whoever hires you? Are you controlled by the union? If you want to work, but the union says, oh, we need to stop working to force your employer to give you better, benefits and stuff like that. If you want to work, but you can't work, then who controls you? Are you controlled by your employer? Are you controlled by the union? We never teach people how to be self-sufficient, really. That's because I don't think we want people to be self-sufficient. I don't think the 1% wants you to be self-sufficient. I don't even think that a lot of people in the other 78% want you to be self-sufficient. Which brings me to the bottom 20%, and something about all this that makes me ask questions. All three of these things are labeled working class. So in other words, if somebody has not decided to make you their slave and you can't get a job, do you have rights? Really? Do you have rights? It will be interesting as this whole thing plays out. As we figure out what socialism is, or what capitalism is, or communism is. I really believe we have to understand that all three of those are failed systems. They're economic systems that sound great on paper, but in practice have failed us. All three of them. And we need to find something new. 200 years we've been dealing with all this. At least 200 years. So what are we going to do? So much for that. Let's talk about this week's primaries in the great state of Minnesota. This is a state that basically elected a professional wrestler as their governor several years ago. Now, granted, Jesse Ventura is probably one of our more outspoken political minds and did not do a horrible job as a governor. But the voters of that state did elect as governor a guy whose main quotable quote was, "You know, Mean Gene." Yeah, that. Excuse me. So, this week there was a primary to fill the governor's office for Democrats and Republicans. And one of those Republicans was Mike Lindell. You know, the My Pillow guy, Mike Pillow. The guy who sells overpriced pillows on some of your favorite right-wing news outlets. The guy who wants all of the voting machines thrown away because they're all rigged. And he had to depend on those voting machines last Tuesday because he was running for the office of governor of the state of Minnesota. Now, the good news is that he did not win. But there are actually three pieces of bad news. Bad news number one is that he is not conceding as of the taping of this podcast. He is not conceding. Bad news number two is I can probably understand why. Mike Lindell got 32% of the vote of those who cast ballots. Let me repeat. Mike Lindell apparently has the support of 32% of those who cast ballots in the state of Minnesota. What that means is that Mike Lindell has a sizable chunk of support. For all of us who think that MAGA is dying on the vine because of the actions of the person living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., They're just not happy with the guy living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They haven't changed their minds on it. They still believe elections are rigged. But the real bad news is being called good news by the state of Minnesota. The state of Minnesota says that record numbers of people voted on Tuesday. 1.1 million people voted. That's a big number. That's a big number. Until you realize that was only 25% of the registered voters in that state. 25% voted. That meant that 75% of the people in the state of Minnesota, with some exceptions, I would assume, have something better to do than vote. Now, I've been told, be understanding about this. It's a mid, it's not the big general election. It's just a primary. People don't come out for primaries. Let me tell you a story. A couple of stories. When I was homeless, I wanted to vote. There were decisions being made on my life that I couldn't say anything about. And I've been trying the best I can to get to basically be able to vote. There is a provision in the registration that says if you don't have a roof over your head, you can pretty much put down exactly where what exact corner or whatever it is you stay in. That was how, after 5 years, I was able to vote. And now today, I'm still registered, but I do have a house, or at least I have an apartment. I fought for the right to vote in the 2010s and the 2020s. And as I've said earlier, I'm 71, which means I remember when if you wanted to vote and you had a certain skin color, it's very possible instead of voting, you'd be swinging from a tree. People died for the right to vote. And some of you people in Minnesota and the rest of this country, because people stay home for elections, unless it's a big one. Unless you're dying, there are no excuses. I'm sorry. If you're one of those people who, I'm not political, you better get political, because decisions are being made on you right now. And the reason why they're making those decisions on you right now, because they know you're not going to say anything. Voting's too hard. It's too much of a hassle. Even if I fill in the form and mail it in, it's too much of a hassle. Screw that. And screw some of you. Some of you people who stayed home in 2024 are, in my opinion, the reason we are stuck with the, I can't say the name, the guy at 1600 Penn, and everyone else who will follow him once he is gone. That's what scares me about what happened in Minnesota this week. The fact that a lot of you did not show the F up. We are in a place where we should have all hands on deck. And apparently we don't care. Finally, let me tell you what's been going on over the last few days. We've been having financial issues. You've probably heard my beggings over various social media if you follow me. It has been really rough. Now, thankfully, some of those things have been resolved, but we are still trying to get out of the soup, and we are hoping that certain things would happen. And I've been saying that for the last month or so, if anything I've ever said, as clumsy as it sometimes sounds, if anything I've ever said touched you in a way, or made you think in a certain way, or made you angry in a certain way, if you want to show that you've appreciated that, this is what you do. Number one, you follow. Following is free. You can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Substack. You can follow us on Blue Sky, on Threads. You can follow us on the several accounts I have on TikTok. You can visit our website. Again, the website is radiodon.net. RADIODON.net. All of our podcasts are there in some form or fashion. We just tested something out. We're also going to have a lot of our lives there as well. So I hope you can go there for that. If you also want to support us in a more substantial manner, you simply go to radiodon.net and you click the word support, and when you get there, let's just say you'll see where it is, and you'll see what we're trying to accomplish. And if you want to help us, even a small something like $25 would help right now. And there are other things working in the fire, and I will talk about them when they are soon. But I'd just like to thank you for helping out. I'd like to thank you for being a part of this for over the long years we've been doing this. I know that I am not the most listened to podcast in America. There are days when I see that we have less than 5 people listening, but I appreciate those 5. So thank you very much. And that's all for right now. The views expressed are mine and mine alone. Period. End of discussion. We'll talk to you later. We'll be thinking about you. Bye, y'all.